Hello, welcome back to the Oracle SQL tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to discuss about schema. So, first thing is, what is a schema? Schema is a collection of database objects, and as we know before that the different types of database objects are there. So, example that a schema will contain tables, contains a sequence, views, synonyms, also PLSQL packages, procedures, and so on. Okay, so essentially, if this is our Oracle database, so this database consists of different types of schema, right? Let's say this is called schema A. Okay, so essentially this schema A will contain all this thing, like table. Let's say I have employee table, department table, so they are the part of this schema. There is a collection of database objects. Okay, so that is what is a schema. Then what we do with the schema is owned by an user, and often whatever the name of the schema is the name of the user. So this schema is owned by an user. Okay, so let's say this, since this name of the schema is A, so therefore the user must be A. Okay, number 3. So how do I know, like, as I told you, like my database is full of different schemas, like A, B, and C, and D, and also. So how do I know what is what kind of schemas I have? Okay, so in order to know that, we need to make sure that we understand one more point. There are two types of special user or special schema, okay, that has been created as a part of the database installation. All right, so during the database installation there are two types of special users, and they are called sys and system. Okay, so every database should have at least two users or schema, that is sys or system. Sys is the most privileged user, okay, and then it owns the data dictionary. Like in the last video we discussed about the metadata and all this thing. So the sys will contain all the data dictionary, and it is the most privileged user. System is next in the line. System has all the privilege as sys, but it cannot start up or shut down a database. So cannot, no startup or shutdown. Okay, so it cannot start up or shut down database, else it can do everything else. Then we need system user. The reason what we need system user is to create other users. Okay, so you can also create other users as a sys, but it's a good practice to create other users by connecting to system. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we are going to take a look by connecting to system user, see what kind of schemas we have. Okay, again, the information about what kind of schemas we have and all these things are stored in a table, in a data dictionary table, and that data dictionary table is called all underscore users. Okay, so if you query all underscore users, probably we could come to know what are the different users, what are different schemas are currently existing in this database. So let's go to the Oracle SQL prompt, and this is what I have already done. So basically if I do, so just 1 second, so I say show user, so that means I am in system user. So now I'm just going to describe a data dictionary table called all underscore users. Okay, so this basically give me that all underscore users will have username, user ID, and all this thing. So if I do select distinct username from all underscore users. Okay, so so here it looks like there are 18 rows, there are 18 users are there in my database. Okay, so 18 users are there in my database, and then each of these user in turns contain a lot of different objects. Like for example, here we have a user called Scott, and we'll see very soon, like what kind of object that Scott user contain. Okay, so essentially what you are seeing, all this thing is a, like for example OTM. So this is OTM. So as we saw that this OTM, and then let's say this is called Scott, and so on. We have 18 users are there in this database. Okay, and then each of these is called a schema, and then inside the schema we have objects like table, sequences, views, synonyms, packages, and all this thing. All right. So okay, so now we understand what is a schema, or like as you tell, we are going to tell them, we will interchange these two words, users and schema. They are essentially the same. Okay, so now is time is how can I create a new user? Okay, so I have 18 users right now in my database. How can I create a new user or a new schema? Okay, so to create that one, let's go to next slide, and then we're going to discuss about here how to create. So basically you can create an user or schema by giving a command like create user, and that create user command will look like this. I just copied this thing from the Oracle documentation, and I'm just going to explain what are the different things here. Okay, so and then I'm going to create one default user. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I'm giving a create user just the way that you create table by using create table. So here I'm using create user command to create an user, and the username is Sydney, and then the password is outstanding one. So this is what is the identification, and then I'm saying that whatever objects that I'm going to create by default is going to be stored in a table space called example. So don't worry about table space if you have not read those videos, but we are going to discuss table space, table, and then all these things, the storage components of database in a much later class. Okay, so just for time being, just think about table space as a place where logically the data are stored. Okay, and then what we're saying that we have 10 megabyte on that table space. We have a quota right now. This user cannot have. So basically, what is Sydney, like by this command, what we are trying to do here. So like say, let's say, just let me redraw again. Okay, so basically what we are doing is that we have a database, and inside database we are creating a user called Sydney. Okay, and the Sydney user will have multiple objects like tables, views, and all these things, but the size of all those things cannot be more than 10 megabyte on example table space. That's what this means. And then it does have a temporary table space to do some sorting and all those things, and then that temporary table space is called temp. Then it also has a quota on the system table space. Okay, so that means some of these objects can also lie on the system, and what is the size of those things? Those things will be 5 megabyte. Then the profile of user is called app underscore user. So we are going to discuss what is profile in just 1 minute. Okay, just said, therefore I'm not going to tell anything about it right now. Then password is expire means whenever you're going to log in first time, it will ask you to change your password. Okay, so so you must change in so that you can log to this password, so that you can log using this password. Okay, then now let's come to what is this called profile. The profile something like this, like what are the resources that I'm going to allocate to this user. Okay, so what are resources means this user is going to run on database, and that database will have once I created this user, then people will connect as Sydney and outstanding. So is there any restriction that how many people will connect at a time? Okay, so that's an example of resource. The example of resource is how many people will connect to this DB and all this thing. Okay, so that is what we call a profile, and then an example. Just 1 second. Okay, so here's an example of profile. So what I'm saying is that like this profile app underscore user has all this limit. This is the important clause. That's because by creating a profile we are limiting the resources. So what are the other things that what are the characteristics? So we are saying that this password lifetime is 30. We are saying that fail in login attempts is 2. That means if we 2 times we failed logging in by giving the wrong password, then it is going to disable that profile, this user, for 2 hours in 24 hours. That means for 1 day it is going to be blocked, it's going to be disabled for 2 hours. Okay, then that means what I'm saying is that let's say it's a time at 10 a.m. today, and in 10 a.m. I try to log in with the wrong password 2 times, then it is blocked. This user is disabled until 12 a.m. Even if you give correct password at 11 a.m., it will not allow you to get into the to log in. Okay, and then again after 2 hours, if you give the right, then it will be able to log you in. Then I'm saying that sessions for user is 20. That means at a time 20 sessions can be created, 20 sessions can be connected to the Sydney users. Okay, so that means, see, for example, this is a session, this is another session, so there are 2 sessions right now connected to the database. Similarly, what we are saying here is that by sessions per user parameter, only 20 at a time. Okay, so idle time is 15. That means if you log in and then don't do anything for 15 minutes, it's going to automatically log you out. Okay, so instead of writing and then it's a lot of this is a very simple example of profile, and then we can add a lot of profiles, like on how many CPUs it's going to run and all this thing. Okay, so essentially what we can do here is that instead of writing all those things, we just create a profile and then we attach that profile to the user. That means first thing that I create this profile, then I attach this profile, so therefore this user Sydney will have all these characteristics whatever we discussed here. Okay, so that is how you create a user. So now it's time to see a demo, and then in demo I'm going to give a very simple example. I'm not going to do all this default. No, I'll just take the default value. To create a user, simply you need to do create user ABC. So this is my ABC user or ABC schema that I'm going to create, identified by ABC. Okay, what I'm saying here is that with this I'm just going to create a user. I'm not going to create a user with all these things will be default. So if I do not give any table space, then the default is going to be system. Okay, this is fine for this demo purpose, but never do that one in your real life, because you should not mess up anything with system. You should create your own table space, and users will have their own table spaces. Okay, but however, for this simplicity I just want to make it so I have created a user. Okay, so now if I run the previous command that I run from all users, I should see 19 rows selected. Then why? Because I created a new user called ABC. Well, so if that is the case, so then what is the how many objects that ABC contains right now? If I log into ABC user, is there any object? So basically what I'm saying is that in this database like this, we have created a object, a schema or user called ABC. At this point this ABC is empty, nothing is there. We just created that schema. There is no table, absolutely nothing there in that schema. Okay, so now let's try to connect. Let's try to connect to this ABC. Okay, so basically in order to connect to the ABC, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start a new SQL plus window. So this is how I'm going to do, and then so I'm going to connect ABC/ABC. Okay, so it's trying to connect, and let's see what it's going to give. So it takes some time because this connection and this is basically creating a session, and then a lot of things are happening in the background, like it is creating a dedicated server process for me. But well, it gives me an error. So when I'm trying to go into, I created an ABC user and I'm trying to connect to the ABC user, so this is giving me an error. So ABC lacks create session privilege, login denied. Okay, so let's see what is really going on back in the background. So it is just not enough to just create an user. Okay, so what you need to do after you create an user, you need to give that user access so that it can create a session in the database. Okay, those things are called privileges. Okay, so let's go to the next concept. What is privileges? So privileges are basically a right. okay, right to execute SQL statements. Okay, so basically this is what is privileges. This is rights to execute SQL statement, and what it looks like, this user ABC whatever we created right now does not have that right. Okay, so let's try to see, like, how we can fix it. So what it looks like, this does not have the create session privileges, right? So let's go and then give this user. So by that is a way that I'm just talking something in ahead, but I'll explain you later on. So I'm just going to give, this is system user can grant sorry, create session to ABC. Okay, so now let's try to see, like, if we can connect again. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, so looks like now it's connected. If I do show user, so I'm ABC. Okay, so essentially what happens is that we created this user ABC, but we have not given him the grant to create session. So therefore database is not allowing to create a session, therefore it is not able to connect. And to fix that one, what I did, I log into system user and I grant a create session privilege to this user called ABC. Okay, so now ABC looks like we can log in and then do something. So before we go on and do something, so let's discuss about privilege right to execute SQL statements. And there are two types of privileges. One is called system privileges, and the second one is called object privileges. Okay, so system privileges are something like right to create any table. Okay, so right to create table, views, synonyms, and all this thing. Okay, then object privileges is that this is a privilege on a particular object. So that means right to access a individual objects. So essentially what you do here, so like, say for example, my system example of system privilege is that, okay, grant an access to create table, okay, to user ABC. But whereas grant an access to access on employee table, which is, let's say employee table is there in ABC, so this is an example of object privileges. Okay, so like basically example of object privileges are select on EMP. Okay, so whereas create table is an example of system privileges. Okay, so let's say now with this ABC user, right, I'm going to create a table. So create table A, and then I'm giving a very simple example, a number. Okay, so looks like, again, like, this gives me insufficient privileges. That means this ABC user lacks to create a table. Okay, so what do you do? As I told, we can grant create table to ABC. Okay, so now with this, once I grant this create table to ABC from system user, I can go and then try to create, and probably it is going to create. Okay, so again, it's saying that it does not have a privilege on system, because whenever we create this user ABC, we didn't give any table space. So therefore by default the table space is system, and default table space system is very much protected. And then it does not have, looks like, this user, even though it does have a creating table privilege, but it does not have access to create to table on the system, to access to the system table space. Okay, so therefore what we can do is we can grant, again, grant access on system table space and all those things to that ABC user. But here is one thing, like, I just want to get you to another concept, and then I'll try that. So like, every time I'm doing, right, so create table, so I give this create table privileges to the to that user ABC, right? So now ABC to start with didn't have anything, then I give create session, and then I give create table, and even after I given him create table, still I cannot create a table, okay, because it doesn't have access on anything. So what I do is, there's a bare minimum requirement, there's a bare minimum privileges that I can give so that the user will be okay to go. That means we can create a table, we can select and all this thing, okay. So what we can do is we keep lot of keep all this kind of privileges. We categorize multiple different privileges and call them a role, okay. So the role is basically combinations of privileges, and then that role basically make my life easier from a very administrative point of view, okay. So from administrative point of view, so let's go and discuss about role. So we enable the ABC to connect, and we enable ABC to create, but ABC user cannot select anything right now, okay. So therefore what we comes up with, we are telling that we need to give multiple privileges, and then what are those multiple privileges so that I can make this database user working, means I can select, I can update, I can delete and all this thing, right? So instead of giving this individually one role or one privileges after another privileges, what we do is we combine all these privileges and we call them as a role, okay. Because like if I say it's a role 1, and then again another couple of combinations of privileges called role 2 and so on, okay, and role 3, then what I do, I grant this role to the user. So instead of granting a single privilege, I grant a multiple privileges by just granting this role, okay. There are 3 different types of popular roles that comes with the database pre-installation. Popular roles, one is called connect, number 2 is called resource, number 3 is called DBA, okay. So connect roles comes with multiple privileges like create session, like I think create tables comes under resource and all this thing, okay. So what we do is, let's now try to give 2 roles to this user ABC. Grant okay. So now I've given them both connect and resource grant to ABC. So hopefully right now if I go, I can create the user, okay. So actually I can create the table. So table A is created, okay. So what essentially I did, using either in the resource, most likely in the resource role, I have a privilege to access the system table space, okay. So that is how I created this basically this role, and then these roles are system created. Again, that you can also create your own role by using command called create role, and then create roles ABC, and then you can create, after you create this role ABC, then what you can do is you can grant different privileges to this role ABC, okay. So therefore this ABC role, whatever I'm going to create, I have different types of privileges, okay. So again, all these privileges you can grant as a system user or any user which has an grant access. That means, for example, if say, so right now, so you have user A, so user ABC right now have only connect and resource, but connect and resource role may not give you additional privileges where you can transfer one of the privileges to another user, say PQR, okay. That you cannot do. Instead, if this ABC user is granted, say for example here is a create table, and then if we give ABC user a role, sorry, a privileges, that is that he can create this he can create a privilege which will basically going to give the grant option. If that is there, then he can basically pass that privilege to other user, and other user can create, okay. So that is what is called this thing. So this is all about, I think, privileges. And another thing is that revoke. So if you do not like anything, you can revoke back. Say for example, I've given connect and resource roles to ABC. I can at any time I can revoke it back from ABC just by giving revoke connect from ABC. So that will do the trick. Okay. So the last thing that I want to discuss about, there are two special types of privileges. One is called sysoper, another is called Sysdba. Okay, so these are two types of privileges are there, and then sysoper is going to, like, so both of them are the same capability, like, we can start up, shut down DB, and then we can also do the backup and recover. But sysoper cannot see other users data, no data access. Okay, we'll give an example. Whereas Sysdba can do all this thing and also can access data. Say for example, I'm telling you, like, now here is my database. So I have a user called system, then I have a user called ABC. So ABC has a table T1 and so on, right? So if I connect with a role called sysoper, with with a sysoper privilege, then I can access only, like, let's say I connect system as sysoper. Okay, so connect, so basically, so let's we'll give an example. Just hold on a second. So if you connect to sys as sysoper, okay, then you cannot access the data in this table T1. Whereas if you connect as sysdba, then you can access the data in the other table. Say like, let's do some example to that. So we have created this user ABC, and then we have created this table A, right? So let's try to insert into A values 1. Okay, and then say commit. Okay, so I have inserted one rows to that. So now let's say I want to connect password is welcome one. So it's trying to connect, take some time to connect. So the thing that I want to show you is that I am connecting as a sys user with sysoper privilege, and I'm trying to access the data in user called ABC. So user ABC. Okay, so in order to access to another schema, I need to do select star from, and then username is what, ABC dot, table name is A, I think. Yeah, table name is A, ABC dot A. Okay, so it says that table or view does not exist, because as I told you, right, it's not going to give me the data access. Okay, and it will give me this kind of message. And now let's say I want to connect as sysdba. Password is welcome on. It will take some time to get me to that user, and then I'm going to run the same SQL, that whatever I want to did previously, that once I'm connected using sysdba privileges. So let's see, like, if we can access this table data. Okay, so now I'm connected, and then I'm going to run the same query. Let's see. Okay, see, like, now we are going to get the data. So here is the conclusion that we come to get, or we come to know, that if I connected to sysoper, I don't see any data. Sysdba, I do see any data. So essentially what we do, we created these privileges to give to the DBA, because DBA should do the database startup, shutdown, recover, backup, and all this thing. But at any case, they should not see what is happening in the other tables, other schemas, tables, and all this thing. Okay, so therefore we keep a sysoper privileges. Sysdba can do everything, and this is a very important thing. And then generally they don't do anything on Sysdba, because there are accessibility and all these things and issue there. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and then we are going to do some worked out examples and all those things so that this concept will be clear. Thank you.